I don't know if it was like the first day in or what, but he was told, hey, here's a weapon, go stab this guy, or else we're gonna stab you.
The amount, expensive new errors I couldn't even pronounce. No gun polish, just sticking the party. Hope nobody gets out of their body. Got himself hurt, he was full of that money. We ain't even wanna have to kill nobody.
My current boyfriend has been through the prison system, and he'd been at Tracy for 2 years and stuff. And he was telling me about how I don't know if it was like the first day in or what, but he was told, hey, here's a weapon, go stab this guy, or else we're gonna stab you, sort of thing. And I didn't realize that that was like a normal thing, I guess, for going into prison systems. I thought it was more just like if you were actually part of a gang and stuff. So could you elaborate a little bit of what you know of like why that is like what they do with everybody?
Well, I don't know what they do with everybody because I didn't belong to all the groups. I only belong to one group. So I can tell you what we do, and I'm not sure exactly what his affiliation was. Was he a Aryan Brotherhood? Was he affiliated with a skinhead? Was he? I'm not exactly sure. So if you can,
He said he didn't affiliate with anybody.
what race was he, or is he?
White.
He's white.
White.
So anybody that goes into the California Department of Corrections is going to be affiliated with something. You're either going to be labeled as an African American, and then you're going to be labeled subsect under that. You're a Blood, a Crip, your Bay Area, your Kumi, and then Mexican, you're going to be labeled as something, whether a Northerner or a Southerner or a Bulldog, or you could be an other, what they classify as like Native Americans, Asians, things like that. And then if you're white, you're going to be classified as a white. And then under those groups, there's a number of other groups. There's Aryan Brotherhood, there's skinheads, and then there's probably a bunch of other ones since I've been out of it for so long, because gangs are constantly going to form. So if he was a white and he wasn't affiliated with anybody, and there was somebody on the yard that was supposed to run the white car, as they call it, somebody could have asked him to put in work just so that they can see what he was about. If he was going to cower out, or if he was actually going to do it, then they can see if he could be a good soldier. So it could have been a test. But typically with the group that I ran with, you don't typically do that. You don't typically start off like that, and especially not the first day, unless for whatever reason you happen to come into a war, because sometimes you have wars on the yard between ethnic groups, whether if it's Northerners and Southerners or blacks and whites. But typically you'll come in, if it's like that, and you'll be on lockdown. So the only person that you're probably going to see is your cellmate, if you're classified, or you could also be in a cell by yourself, in which case you're not going to see anybody. But in Tracy, you'll see a lot of people during shower. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. He mentioned the showers and stuff too. So thank you.
Yeah. So every single circumstance and situation is going to be different. And I've learned that nothing is impossible, but I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but generally speaking, that probably wouldn't happen.
Joseph, how much time did you do on the attempted manslaughter?
Attempted murder, 12 years.
Murder, sorry.
12 years.
12 years. Okay. And when did you release?
March 11th, 2011.
Okay. So that is 10. So it's been 10 years, roughly 10 plus years.
Yeah, I celebrated my 10-year anniversary at the same place that I had dinner for the very first night.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I went to Joe's Crab Shack. Yeah.
A little different than the chow hall, huh?
Right.
Yeah, it's a little different. Well, especially because of what I was celebrating. I had a sheriff officer sitting down at the end. I had a Cocoa County police officer, and I had a Placer County sheriff all sitting down the way. I had an entrepreneur sitting in front of me. I had a teacher sitting to my right that has done a number of good charity works. I had childhood friends that were sitting there. I had my sister. I had my wife. It was a very, very interesting group of people that I never thought that, all of these people could be in the same room at one time.
Yeah.
Let alone to celebrate, my 10-year anniversary.
And today you have your own gym, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Fitness center or gym. I'm not sure what you call it these days.
Yeah, it's a gym. It's called Iron Flex Fitness. It's in El Dorado Hills.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
Well, during the pandemic, when the last time I did this interview was, I was at Lifetime, and then the pandemic happened, and they told me that I couldn't train people because the pandemic was around. So I had somebody that had some space. I went back and forth between that space and home, and I just ended up continuously doing that back and forth when they decided to open up the gyms. And then I just left Lifetime, which was less than a year ago, December 1st. I officially just left Lifetime and went on this venture since then. So since December 1st, coming up on a year, December 1st.
All right. And let me digress a second. So how old were you when you went in?
Oh, wow. Way back, 20. Yeah, 20.
All right. And that was on the heels of some juvenile stuff too that you did, right? So you had some institutional
No, well,
experience with juvenile?
I was out on parole from the California Youth Authority.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on parole from the California Youth Authority.
Okay.
And then while I was on parole, I committed another crime.
Okay.
And then eventually went to prison. So I went back to the California Youth Authority at the Northern Reception, and then from there they took me to county jail.
Okay. So you were roughly 20 at the time you started doing that term.
Yeah, I was 19 when the crime actually happened. So I was 19.
How old was your cellmate, your first cellmate?
He was 13 because I've been in and out since I've been 12. So he was a year older than me.
Wow. How about when you were doing time at the state pen? How old was your roommate?
Let's see. So I went to Tracy for reception. I didn't have anybody for a couple of days because they were dealing with some stuff, and so I got classified in a few days. And until you get classified to see, who you are. I mean, you come there with a file, but they do their due diligence. I mean, a lot of people come there with files, they're labeled, but they still have their own processing to make sure that they place you in the right cell. But I want to say he was fairly close to my age. I mean, it's been such a long time ago. I want to say he's fairly close to my age, maybe 8 years older than me. I mean, I was 20, so he was probably 20s, early 30s, if I had to guess.
So I don't want to get too granular with this, but I'm just curious, what was that like for you the first time you had a cellmate in a state penitentiary, and he was 8 to 10 years older than you? What was that like?
I mean, to be honest with you, I wasn't too concerned, only because I was in and out of juvenile detention centers, California Youth Authority. I had an idea on what to expect. I just didn't know the extent of the political formats and how militant they were when it comes to like going to the bathroom by yourself, exercising by yourself, sticking within your lane. It was definitely different. I mean, the California Youth Authority also has their ways. As a juvenile in the Youth Authority, it's a little different, where we represent a little bit differently. Our rules that we have for ourselves that govern us on how to behave appropriately are a little different. So then when you go to the prison system, it's a little different. So I had a rude awakening. I had to learn very fast.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit more of an abrupt eye opener.
Yeah. You guys have any other questions?
I had a guy in the house that told me that he told me about a situation he had in prison where he tried to help a young dude out by telling him, you know, just stay back. He just told him what to do, and the guy didn't listen to him. And he was, as he was telling the story, he was getting really emotional, and he said that there was a point where the guy just messed with too many people, and when he tried to do something about him, they just sat him down while they went in and tried to hurt the other guy, and instead he ended up taking his life in prison. How do you deal with how did you deal with the residual of the things that happened while you were incarcerated? I mean,
you mean just it happening over and over for 12 years?
Yeah.
I think, let's see, I want to explain this to you so that you can understand it rather than through my words, but maybe through your own understanding. Have you ever seen a car accident happen in front of you?
Yeah, I have.
How many times?
Like once I saw a guy get dragged.
Okay.
Motorcycle.
Well, what was your initial reaction when you seen that?
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's new. It could be a little exciting, you know. So that's one time. So what do you think would happen if you seen a car accident once a week, just like that, if not worse? Do you think your reaction the 50th time would be the first time?
No, probably not.
So the first time, you know, you see somebody get thrown off of a tier and you see their body, you know, just kind of land down there at first, you know, it's kind of like, whoa, okay. You may feel some pity, some understanding. You may be happy because you could be a rival gang member. And then after a while, you see it so often where you don't even blink an eye and you just keep walking because you probably already seen the human behavior happening, where you can actually tell and notice, like, if something's going to happen. The tier gets extremely quiet. It's not as loud. There's always these telltale signs when in a group like that where you can tell. And I think I became really, really good at just reading human behavior, intuition, and I do that very well in crowds as well too, where you can always tell there's movements, there's shifts. You can size somebody up. I think I got really, really good at that. And another thing is I didn't do a lot of drugs and alcohol while I was in there. So for the most part, I was very sober. I wanted to be vigilant. I wanted to take it all in. Not to say that I never drank in there, which is Pruno, or I didn't do any drugs. Like, I smoked weed on occasion, but it was never on the yard where I can probably get hurt because I'm under the influence. So it's very, very different. And then the group that I ran with didn't necessarily want you to do that because it clouded your mind, it clouded your judgment, and it wasn't good for you. So as crazy as that may sound, there's certain groups in there that just do not want people, their gang members, to use drugs, to drink, to offend the correction officers. Like, you have to be extremely professional, like a business setting.
Yeah.
Because it lowers the correction officers. It just lowers their security. You come across as this gentleman. So, and it's a lot easier to get closer to somebody like that than to be disrespectful and offensive. So you just learn certain tactics. And I think after a while, I just learned all the tactics that was going to keep me alive. And I just became numb to everything.
But they know the amount. Expensive new berries I couldn't even pronounce. No gun polish, just sticking the party. Hope nobody gets out of their body. Got itself hurt, he was full of that money. We ain't even wanna have to kill nobody. Run down ocean like Fast and the Furious. Coming red-handed, couldn't crank up the jury. Your boss is up.